A very good afternoon. Welcome to Africa Today. I am Peace Ogenegbawe. First, let's talk the headlines. On the headlines, reps to resume plenary Monday. Ghana Speaker refers census to ad committee. Ethiopian forces control majority of Tigray. And on sport, stakeholders call for NWFL funding. Now the news in detail. Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari has asked Nigerians to vote for whoever they wish from whichever party during the 2023 general elections. The president stated this while speaking to newsmen in London on the sidelines of a medical trip. The president also assured that no politician will be allowed to intimidate Nigerians. Speaking on the 2023 elections, Buhari said nobody will be allowed to mobilize resources and thugs to frighten people in any constituency. The president had in February signed the reworked Electoral Amendment Bill into law. Findings show that the Electoral Amendment Bill of 2022 is an amendment of the 2010 Electoral Act. The bill was signed to help Nigeria improve its electoral process from the past ones. Away from that, the House of Representatives is to resume plenary on Monday, November 14, 2022, as against the earlier announced date of Tuesday, November 15. The clerk of the House, Yahaya Danzaria, announced this in a one-paragraph message to members of the House. It said the Monday date was arrived at to enable members of the House deliberate on some urgent legislative issues. The House has been on 1 month break to allow ministries, departments, and agencies, that is MDAs, of government defend their 2023 appropriation before the various committees of the House. Away from that, the National Population Commission, that is NPC, has said the outcome of the 2023 National Population Census will not be as quarrelsome as previous ones, noting that the exercise will be digital. Chairman of the Commission, Nasser Kwara, gave this assurance on Thursday at the National Assembly while speaking with cross-section of the media at the sidelines of the budget defense session with the Senate Committee on National Identity Card and Population.
At the time we go to the field, administering the questionnaire that is already in the PDA, and answers to questions that we ask are fed into it and uploaded to our database in headquarters, we can do the analysis and provide Nigerians digital data that, by the grace of God, will not be as contentious as we had in the past censuses that have been conducted.
The NPC also said a lot has gone into preparation for the nationwide exercise, revealing that the first phase, which is the enumeration area demarcation, has already been conducted with the use of the new state-of-the-art technology that will be used in the actual head counts. Following Thursday's twin attack on the offices of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, in Ogun and Osun State, the Commission has met with the National Security Advisor, Babagana Monguno, the service chiefs, and the heads of all relevant paramilitary agencies today. The inferno at the Commission's office in Abeokuta, Ogun State, and Ede, Osun State on Thursday has further aroused anxiety about forthcoming polls. Those at the ICCES meeting were the National Security Advisor, Babagana Monguno, who chairs the committee, the INEC chairman, Mahmoud Yakubu, who co-chairs, and the heads of armed forces and paramilitary agencies. Details of this meeting will come in subsequent bulletins. We now take Welcome back. Now to news from other parts of West Africa. Ghana's Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bangbin has referred the censure motion moved by the minority to have Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta removed from office to an 8-member ad hoc committee for consideration. He added that at the committee level, evidence at the minority's disposal will be presented for discussion. According to Bangbin, the finance minister will be given the ample opportunity to defend himself.
The matter will be referred to an ad hoc committee to investigate, where the minister will have the ample opportunity to defend himself.
The speaker also noted
why we have asked you to come is because the stories were
submitted before the House of a decision for a decision to be taken. The 8-member ad hoc committee will be chaired by the Andasi Asokwa MP. Moving away from that story, Liberia has declared a public holiday for people to stay at home to be counted in a much-delayed census, as none of the 71,000 counters hired for the job are out counting because of a dispute over their fees. There was also a last-minute disagreement between top officials of the Liberia Institute of Statistics and Geoinformation Services. Its head insists preparations are complete, but another senior official in charge of statistics disagrees and warns that any attempt at premature counting will not be accurate for credibility. Some lawmakers had suggested a postponement of the event to allow for more adequate preparation, but this wasn't considered. The Liberian Constitution calls for a census to be conducted every 10 years. The results are needed to define electoral constituencies for 2023 general election. Now let's move away from that to other parts of Africa after this timeout. Stay with us. Welcome back. Ethiopian Prime Minister, National Security Advisor Redwan Hussein, on behalf of the Ethiopian government, tweeted that 70% of Tigray is now under the Ethiopian National Defense Forces and that aid was flowing like no other times, including in areas he said were not under the control of the government's forces. Spokesman of the Tigray People's Liberation Front, Getachew Reda, has however denied the claim. Representatives of Tigray and the government in Addis Ababa have been meeting in Kenya this week to discuss the implementation of the peace deal signed last week in South Africa. The two parties signed an agreement committing to end 2 years of fighting in Tigray. We now move to Malawi, where the Malawian President Lazarus Chakwera has joined other African leaders in criticizing wealthy nations for not wanting to pay for climate loss and damage. Speaking to newsmen at the ongoing COP27 meeting in Egypt, President Chakwera said African countries had contributed little to pollute the climate and that wealthier countries should take more responsibility. He also accused wealthy nations of not matching their promises with actions in the fight against climate change. Meanwhile, leader of the Islamic and biggest party in Tunisia, another party, Rached Ghannouchi, appeared on Thursday before a court in Sousse East as part of an investigation for money laundering and incitement to violence. Ghannouchi, who headed the frozen parliament in 2021 July and then dissolved by President Said Kais, had already been questioned last July as part of an investigation opened in this case called Instalingo. While speaking with the media, the opposition leader said, "This is a false case that aims to divert the interest of Tunisian society from the real problems of the country. It is, according to him, a file judicial empty and a problem invented." Other members of Ennahda are also being prosecuted for allegedly suspicious financial transactions with Instalingo, a digital content production company, accused, according to local media, of setting up defamation campaigns against senior state officials. However, he has been released late Thursday and no new date has been set up for a next hearing by the court. Let's now move to business news after this timeout. Stay with us. Welcome back. The Naira has rebounded by 20.8% to 720 Naira per US dollars at the parallel market. The Naira, which fell consistently throughout last week against the United States dollar, tumbled to an all-time low of 910 Naira per US dollars last weekend. However, the currency began a rebound against the greenback on Monday after a week-long clampdown on foreign exchange dealers in Abuja, Lagos, Kano, and other major cities by the personnel of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, that is EFCC. The Naira, which was bought and sold on the streets of Lagos and Abuja between 735 Naira per US dollars and 745 Naira per US dollars respectively about 2 weeks ago, began a tree fall shortly after the decision of the federal government to redesign the local currency. On Monday, however, the Naira rebounded and was bought and sold between 850 Naira per dollar and 860 Naira per dollar. The national currency gained significantly and steadily on Tuesday and Wednesday and closed at 720 Naira per US dollars on Thursday. Away from that story, 20 African youth-led enterprises have won grant funding of up to 100,000 US dollars each in this year's African Youth Adaptation Solutions Challenge competition. Speaking at the award ceremony, African Development Bank Group President Akinwumi Adesina said Africa's need cannot be ignored. According to him, youth should be at the center of climate dialogue solution for climate adaptation in the continent. As 80% of the winners' businesses were in agriculture, Adesina said agriculture is the future of Africa and it's also the lowest bar for Africa to feed itself, while the high bar is for Africa to feed the world. The annual competition and awards program for youth-led enterprises, which is 50% women-led, is jointly organized by the Global Center on Adaptation, the African Development Bank, and Climate Investment Funds, that is the CIF. The program boosts sustainable job creation by supporting entrepreneurship and youth-led innovations in climate change adaptation and resilience across Africa. This is Africa Today on Hills TV. Let's now join Aynan Lubem on Sport News. To stay with us.
A very good afternoon and welcome to Sports News on Africa Today. I am Aynan Lubem. Now to Sports News. Nigerian stakeholders have called for more funding of Women Professional Football League. Former first Vice President of the Nigeria Football Federation, that is the NFF, and Chairman Lagos State Football Association, Sheyi Akinwumi, expressed optimism that women football in Nigeria and parts of the world is the next big thing. Akinwumi made the statement at an awards ceremony where outstanding Nigerians were honored in line with their numerous attainments and contributions to women's sports development.
This will not only encourage the footballers themselves and the coaches, the backroom staff, but also people who will invest in women's football. Women's football needs investment, and people have now seen, or will now see even more, that there are people behind the scenes who recognize that the next big thing in Nigerian football is women's football.
Also speaking, President of NWFL side Niger Rattles, Paul Ede, said more attention should be given to women's football in the country. Away from that particular story, to begin preparations in earnest towards the ICC World Cup qualifier, Nigeria Cricket Federation, that is the NCF, has called up 14 players that will represent the country. The NCF on Thursday afternoon called up a 14-man squad that will carry the country's flag in Kigali, Rwanda. Captain Sylvester Okpe leads the list of invited players. Among others are Adedeji Sesson, Suleiman Runsewe and Isaac Okpe. Rwanda has been picked as the host for the 2024 Sub-Regional African Qualifier for Groups A and B, and Nigeria is one of the teams participating. Nigeria is placed in Group B of the qualifiers. The Delta State government has said there was no loss of life in the accident which occurred at the construction site of the indoor sports complex at the Stephen Keshi Stadium, Asaba. State Commissioner for Information Charles Anyago, in a live video at the venue of the incident, said reports making the rounds of the cause of the accident were untrue. He said the accident was caused by misalignment of the crane by which operators which led to the heavy-duty equipment crashing on the wall in one of the floors. According to eyewitnesses and officials at the scene, contrary to reports of loss of lives, only one person sustained minor injuries and has since been treated, while others have returned to work on the site.
Hearing is that Stephen Keshi Stadium came falling and that individuals passed on. Nobody died. It's just a little bruise that somebody suffered on account of the war, and of course the person have even returned to.
Anyago therefore urged the general public to discountenance any report stating loss of life on account of the minor accident at the construction site. And that's your sport news on Africa Today. Back to Peace for the rest of the news.
Welcome back. A 25-year-old man, Abubakar Muhammad, was docked in a Sharia court sitting in Magajin Gari, Kaduna, for allegedly stealing a loaf of bread. According to reports, Muhammad is also charged with stabbing the bread distributor, Isa Amza. Newsmen gathered that the accused had earlier denied the allegation on the first hearing, where he was granted bail on the condition that he presents a reliable surety. Muhammad later pleaded guilty after spending 45 days in correctional facility due to inability to get a surety for his bail. Earlier, the prosecution counsel, Ibrahim Shaibu, said Muhammad is charged with criminal conspiracy, extortion, and causing harm. The judge, Rilwanu Kiadai, discharged the accused due to number of days he spent in correctional facility. And that's Africa Today. But before we go, here are the headlines again. We told you that House of Rep is to resume plenary on Monday as against Tuesday. Ghana Speaker of the Parliament has referred consensus to ad hoc committee. Ethiopian forces are in control of majority of Tigray, according to reports. And on sport, football stakeholders are calling for NWFL funding. Remember to visit us on Facebook and Instagram at Hills TV. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Hills TV. I am Peace Ogenegbawe. Thank you.